My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I want to talk about the issue of detransitioning. And I've been following this one guy on Twitter for a while. His name is Tullipr, Tullip, capital R. His first name is Richie. I believe he's in the United Kingdom right now, but he is a person that transitioned from a male to a female, or at least so he thought. And then later in life, he decided to detransition back to what he formerly was. If you read his tweets, what you'll find out in one of the tweets, he says the transition was a mask. It was a mask that he put on, but this was a mask that had ramifications that he did not anticipate, even though he was, quote, an adult when he went through the transition. Once again, this is from Tullipr, Richie in the United Kingdom, I believe. I just want to read some of his tweets that he's talking about. He had a series of tweets, and he starts it off with this: I want to tell everyone what they took from us, what irreversibly really means, and what reality looks like for us. And this, again, is a person who has transitioned and now is detransitioning back to what he originally was. No one told me any of what I'm going to tell you now. And just so that you're aware, this is from June 14th of 2022, 4:57 a.m. on Twitter. He continues telling people what no one is going to tell them. I have no sensation in my crotch region at all. You could stab me with a knife and I wouldn't know. The entire area is numb, like it's shell-shocked and unable to comprehend what happened, even 4 years on. So he had what they call a bottom surgery. He had his penis cut off. That's what he's talking about, because he was transitioning from a male to a female. And by the way, you never really transition. You do not become a woman when you are a man and you cut off your penis. You become a mutilated man. And if you're a girl or a woman and you cut off your breasts, you do not become a man. You become a mutilated woman. Your sex is in your biology. You can take a look at the blood and you are still a male or a female. It's at a chromosomal level. So if you cut off your penis or if you remove your breast, it does nothing to change who you really are. Oh, you may feel good about it, maybe for a lifetime, maybe just for a while. And in this case, with Tullipr, it was just for a while. No one told me that the base area of your penis is left. It cannot be removed, meaning you're left with a literal stump inside that twitches. When you take testosterone and your libido returns, you wake up with morning wood without the tree. If you're a man, you know what he's talking about. If you're a woman who's married, you probably know what he's talking about with your husband. And he says, I wish this were a joke. If you do take testosterone after being post-op, you run the risk of internal hair growth in the neo-vagina. So they cut off the penis and they give him a fake vagina, the new vagina. Imagine dealing with internal hair growth after everything. Nobody told him about this. You're going to get your penis cut off, they're going to give you a fake vagina, and then you're going to have other problems because now you have internal hair growth inside your fake vagina. What a choice. Be healthy on testosterone and a freak, or remain a sexless eunuch. And that's something that will never come back, and one of the reasons why I got surgery. My sex drive died about 6 months on HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. My sex drive died after 6 months on HRT, and at the time I was glad to be rid of it. But now, 10 years later, I'm realizing what I'm missing out on and what I won't get back. So he was on hormone replacement therapy for at least, it appears, 6 years prior to getting his penis cut off. The bottom surgery is what they call it. Tullipr, Richie, says this: because even if I had a sex drive, my neo-vagina, my fake vagina, is so narrow and small, I wouldn't even be able to have sex if I wanted to. Nobody told him about this. And when I do use a small dilator, I have only random pockets of sensation that only seem to pick up pain rather than pleasure. So you cut off your penis, you put in a fake vagina. At least in his case, he cannot even experience sexual pleasure anymore. Any pleasure that I do get comes from the prostate that was moved forward and wrapped in glands from the penis, meaning anal sex isn't possible and can risk further damage. He wasn't told anything about all of this stuff. But we have this, we've got to be backing trans people, and they're not being told what the reality is like. Richie Tullipr continues, then there's the dreams. I dream often that I have both sets of genitals. In the dream, I'm distressed that I have both. Why both, I think? I tell myself to wake up because I know it's a dream. And I awaken into a living nightmare. In those moments of amnesia, as I would wake, I would reach down to my crotch area expecting something that was there for 3 decades, and it's not there. He had his surgery. He had his penis removed. My heart skips a beat every single damn time. Then there's the act of going to the toilet. It takes me about 10 minutes to empty my bladder. It's extremely slow, painful, and because it dribbles, no matter how much I relax, it will then just go all over that entire area, leaving me soaking. He was not told this. He was not told, Richie, go ahead, you know we're for all your transition, we're gonna disclose everything to you. No. We just want you to be our trophy trans person. We're not gonna tell you about the reality you're gonna experience. Richie continues, so after cleaning myself up, I find moments later that my underwear is wet. No matter how much I wiped, it slowly drips out for the best part of an hour. I never knew at 35 I ran the risk like smelling like piss everywhere I went. Something he was not told. Something these kids are not being told. Something the transgender movement is not telling people. You do this, you're gonna mess up your life. Richie continues even further. Now I get to the point where I'm detransitioned, and the realization that this is permanent is catching up with me. So he was a person who transitioned, had his regrets, as many transitioners do. They have transition regret and they want to detransition. They don't talk about this because that's not in accordance with the ideology, the trans ideology. That's not in accordance with the sexual perversion they want to cram down our throats. But he decided to detransition. He did not like being trans, or whatever trans is. He did not like being a fake woman when inside he was a man. During transition, I was obsessive and deeply unwell. This was when he was going from man to woman. I was obsessive and deeply unwell. I cannot believe they were allowed to do this to me even after all of the red flags. I wasn't even asked if I wanted to freeze sperm or want kids. In my obsessive, deeply unwell state, they just nodded along and did not tell me the realities, what life would be like. And finally, there's dilation, which is like some sort of demonic ceremony where you impale yourself for 20 agonizing minutes to remind you of your stupidity. And by the way, I recently found out about this too, that once a person who is a man gets his penis cut off and puts in a fake vagina, he has to impale himself. He has to put something in his new vagina so that it doesn't heal over. And he calls it, it's similar to impaling yourself in some sort of demonic ceremony where you impale yourself for 20 agonizing minutes to remind you of your stupidity. That isn't even the half of it. And this isn't regret either. This is grief and anger. And then he says, F everyone who let this happen. F everyone who let this happen. Now we have people like in Texas, we have a person who's running for the Democratic governor. His name is Robert Francis O'Rourke, and he wants to stand up for trans kids. What Richie Tullipr would say to him is, Robert Francis O'Rourke, F you for allowing this to happen. There is an attorney out in Fort Worth area. She works for the Coons Fuller law firm. Family court, her name is Jessica Janicek. She is the child castration queen, in my opinion, among attorneys. I went down there and watched her argue before a judge to have a mother be able to so-called transition a son. F Jessica Janicek and F Coons Fuller law firm for allowing this to happen. These are our legal people. You know what really strikes me is that Joseph Mengele, the angel of death, the man who performed experiments in Nazi camps, especially on twins. You know what? When we saw what he did, we were appalled. We condemned him. It was a crime against humanity, and yet you have people like Robert Francis O'Rourke defending this practice, Jessica Janicek of the Coons Fuller law firm arguing in court before a corrupt judge, two corrupt judges actually. There was Kim Cooks, and there was also Bloody Mary Brown of Dallas, Texas, who will not let the father see the child because the mother wants to transition the child, wants to start the process, the hormone replacement therapy, the chemical castration. The boy is 9 years old. The interesting thing was when I was down at that trial, there was a person there, probably about 28 or so, and he or she came up to me and said, I knew I was always a girl when I was young. And he transitioned into a woman. But he said, dear God, do not let this happen to kids. Do not let this happen to kids. There's another lady, flaming lesbian. I believe that's her testimony about herself out in California. And she hates what's going on there. She's a lesbian, she's proud of it, she admits it, but not this stuff. When we talk about the LGBTQ community, this lesbian, bisexual, gay, queer community, some of these people are appalled that you put the T in there. They know it is child abuse. And yet we have legislators, many of them within the Democratic Party, that support this stuff, that want to say we are protecting trans kids. Again, in Texas, we have a man running for governor, Robert Francis, aka Beto O'Rourke. And he's got a shirt, Defend Trans Kids. Robert Francis O'Rourke, would you please read what happens to trans kids and then keep your position? Go ahead and tell everybody, look I know this happens to trans kids. I know that when we cut off their stump and we put a new vagina in them, they're gonna have a miserable life, but I wanna defend that choice for kids. Here was a man who in his 20s went through this, and he said, F you, all of you people that let this happen to me. Was he troubled? Yes. Was he obsessive? Yes. Was he unwell? Absolutely. And yet our medical community, our attorneys like Jessica Janicek of the Coons Fuller law firm, they would defend him. They would defend the practice, the barbaric practice, the practice that we would have condemned when Joseph Mengele, if he would have done such things under Nazi Germany. So what is the real force that's driving the transition movement? There's an ad right here. The LGBTQ movement, or the transition movement, is a $5.2 trillion industry $5.2 trillion. People will sell your kids. They will abuse your kids. They will tell you to transition your kids. They will defend you. Anti-family courts, judges, attorneys, all sorts of people will get up there and say, we've got to defend these kids who are confused, who are obsessive, who don't even have enough maturity about them. We need to defend their rights to cut off their penises or to cut off their breasts and pretend that they are a girl or a boy. This is perverse. I stand against it 100%. I think these people should be brought up, and they should also face the new Nuremberg trials. These are crimes against humanity. These are crimes against children, and I believe Tullipr would be in the forefront of this movement to say this was a crime, what you let me do, even though I was, quote, above the age and adult and could consent. What you did to me was criminal. There may be some people that it works for. I don't know. I've met one or two that evidently it appears to have worked for. But many people at one time or another have regrets. Dear God, what have I done? I wake up with a nightmare. I reach down, there's nothing there. I have no sensation. I smell like piss. I have to impale myself in a demonic ceremony 20 minutes a day to keep my fake vagina open. That's what you're standing for. If you want to back this trans movement, it is perverse, and the position that you are holding is immoral, and no matter how much you want to say, well, we need to let people have the choice, you are trying to solve your conscience over something that is completely indefensible. That's it. Thank you very much. Tullipr, I don't know what to say regarding this. Maybe someday I'll get to meet you in person. I have met other people that have detransitioned. I have not met a person who has detransitioned who has not expressed regrets over the transition part, who have not said, I've regained my identity as a man or as a woman. And usually the transition part, it was usually preceded by some type of abuse in their own life. Sexual abuse or some other type of abuse that led them to think that maybe as a man they were a girl, or as a girl they were a boy, or maybe it was just peer pressure because it's the latest thing to do. We must stand against this evil. It is child abuse. Our Attorney General, Ken Paxton of the state of Texas, has opined that this is child abuse. CPS, that wretched agency that rarely gets anything right, at least they got this right. It is child abuse. We need to stand against this child abuse. And I think personally that some of these lawyers like Jessica Janicek of Kuntz Fuller Law Firm should also be held guilty of child abuse, should come up for trial in front of the people. Kuntz Fuller Law Firm that allows you to do so. Many of these teachers that push this agenda, we need to hold them guilty of child abuse. We need to stop this wretched, wicked practice. Stop sacrificing our children to those who have no desire in seeing them become all that they could be. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much.